Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Well, today I'm not entirely sure what this makes me feel. Perhaps all emotions at once. It is the 7 deadly sins, more specifically, gluttony. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses and another edition of Catholic Splaining. Prepare yourself, you're about to be Catholic splained. The great thing about these 7 deadly sins, though, they are universal. So, whether you believe in God, whatever religion you worship or don't worship, there's something in it for you. Something in it for you. Well, guess who's here? Guess who's here all the way from a very far place down under? It is Dan Blackroyd. Hello, Dan. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about gluttony and what to do about it. Gluttony is a tricky one today, and we're going to see why. I like the very balanced articles I found about it, because our perception and knowledge has shifted a bit. We shall see. But first, let's look, what even is gluttony? What is it? The technical definition of a gluttony is dun dun dun, an excess in eating or drinking. And I put this in parentheses because we find that gluttony can also be undereating when it is done in a gluttonous manner. It's how you approach these things. Okay. So, for example, if you are grossly undereating for the same selfish reasons or inordinate reasons, that can also be gluttony. That's why sometimes you can't always tell someone is gluttonous necessarily by looking at them. Or, for example, hey, that person doesn't look gluttonous at all, but maybe for all you know, they're shooting up heroin or smoking cigarettes. I swear, if we could find a way to have everyone smoke cigarettes and not everyone get cancer, because I swear that's where a lot of this obesity has been showing up, where it never has before, because everyone used to smoke. And then everyone quit. Loads of people quit, or it definitely became less acceptable. That's just a little theory out there I wanted to throw out there. But yeah, that can also be gluttonous. All right. So not necessarily just eating or drinking. And another definition, or secondary definition, greedy or excessive indulgence. Okay. So it is an indulgence linked to greed and excessive. And you see this way about most of these sins, with the exception of pride. There's a reason why pride is in a category all of itself. Because a lot of these things we do need to have. We have to eat. We have to drink. We have to undereat sometimes. We have to take medicine sometimes. These are things that we need to do to survive as human beings. But it is the excess and the reasons behind it. Why, look who's here. It is Chris Sant. Hello. Yes, I did not do Catholic Splaining this morning because I was actually not feeling well. I wasn't even able to get out to Mass today. So, feeling a bit better now. I don't know. One of these days I'll be able to be on a regular schedule. It's just very hard with the way things are in my life, but I hope everyone is doing well. Tell me, let's talk about gluttony. Yes, excess in eating or drinking or undereating. I guess most people don't underdrink. Greedy or excessive indulgence. Oh my gosh, my cat. She has issues. Opposite virtue. So I always like to say the opposite virtue. What is the opposite virtue of gluttony? It is temperance. In other words, do things with reason, with temperance. Not too much, not too little. I hope you're feeling better. I will eventually. Just life. Thank you very much. Kitty is gluttonous for attention. Yes, she is. Indeed, she is. And she is a talker. As she gets older, I swear she's Maybe she's going deaf a bit because she reminds me of like a cranky old lady who's always yelling, "Get off my lawn," or she wants attention. She's just loud. She has no concept of a quiet meow. But yes, temperance. Temperance. Sometimes temperance has been misapplied, like the temperance movement. Because technically, if they were temperate, they would be for drinking in moderation, not just completely not drinking. But that's something for another day, not a topic what we're dealing with here. We're talking about the virtue of temperance. And temperance, frankly, is what we should be in all things. All right. My source here. Well, there's the source. I totally forget what it is. It's one of these Catholic sites. So the Catechism actually doesn't have a lot to say about this. But gluttony is a problem. And why is gluttony a problem? Because it tends to have an effect on the intellect. Its effect on the intellect, especially when you're talking about alcohol. Its effect on the intellect it can be quite obvious. And because of some other issues, that's why I'm saying that there's been a little more nuance when looking at gluttony. According to St. Thomas Aquinas, there are 5 daughters of gluttony. I think in Latin, it makes so much more sense. Let's look at one of them. Unseemly joy. Nothing wrong with joy, but unseemly. In general, unseemly is bad all around. What does the dictionary says? Behavior or actions not appropriate or proper. All right, I think I get some pushback. Not a lot to say about gluttony. That's surprising since I would say it's one of the most prevalent in the West alongside sloth. Yeah. Well, if it does, it's not saying so explicitly because I was searching. I was searching for that word gluttony. Could be those the people that I like to point the finger of judgment at who was translating it into English because I did a concordance search and I couldn't find it there. But we're gonna talk about this, about why it is so prevalent in the West. So we have unseemly joy. My goodness. Scurrility. How do you know it's Thomas Aquinas? Because you have words like this. Foolish talking. That's what it's associated with it. And foolish as opposed to silly. You know, everyone likes a good joke and all that, but foolish. I'm going to say something slightly controversial. I think that social media lends itself to this. A lot of foolishness, a lot of foolish talking. Uncleanness. Yeah, gluttonous is ugly and it is unclean. Unclean. Loquaciousness. Now, loquaciousness is talkativity to an excess. I think alcohol is definitely appropriate here. Crescent says, reading St. Thomas Aquinas always makes me feel like an idiot. Yes, yes. Welcome, everyone that's coming in and will be coming in later. Let's talk about gluttony and what to do about it. What to do about St. Thomas Aquinas. Get a summary. I have the Summa of the Summa, which is a summary of the summary. And then I have an even shorter Summa of the Summa. That's the one I read the most. Dullness of mind. Yeah, too much eating, too much drinking, especially alcohol. Yes, definitely dullness of mind. I'd throw in drugs on this as well. I'd throw in drugs. And then here is some more commentary from the article. And this is not from Thomas Aquinas. They're saying that drunkenness is a species of gluttony. The quantity of human tears shed on account of its effect demonstrates the havoc wrought. Yes. This is where I was saying earlier. This is what I'm referring to, what I was referring to, addiction is a discussion that we're having about a lot of these things. And this is a part of the article that I cited. Because you can have a lot of gluttonous behavior with alcohol. A good example is the proverbial frat party where people take funnels and just pour tequila down people's throats and just drink till you throw up on purpose. That is definitely gluttony. Now, when you get into addiction where someone is a true alcoholic, oh boy, that's not really gluttony. That's a whole other can of worms. However, one does have responsibility if they are an alcoholic or an addict to do something about that. It's tricky, though. It's tricky because sometimes people, when they're in the throes of an addiction, are in denial. Second, oh, look, there it is. Gluttony is an addiction, and addictions are a serious problem. There we are. I said it. Food is an addiction. It's a psychological addiction. We're not just sitting around as Americans. When I say we, I'm talking about Americans, and we're even starting to see it a little bit in Europe where it wasn't before, going, I just feel like eating because I can. In times like the Middle Ages or even the ancient world, yeah, gluttony was like a whole other ballgame when literally starvation was on the other end of your life. But there is an aspect of addiction to food as well as food in the overeating and in the undereating, which leads to things like bulimia and anorexia. And that's where we're talking about something that's far beyond a sin, and the responsibility for it to a certain point is not objectively sinful when a person is sick. Yeah. And one of the horrible things about anorexia is they genuinely can't see that what they're doing is wrong. That what they're doing is unreasonable. They really genuinely think they're fat. Look who is here. Hello, Demogeni. We're talking about gluttony. And Tommy is here. Hello. We love our animals here at Miss Martin Muses. May all the thousands of guinea pigs bring you joy. It would definitely bring my cats joy. They would love to chase your guinea pigs. Gorilla's Random Thoughts. Hey, everyone, I'll catch us in rerun. Got to get my stream ready. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for popping in. Always great to see you. And yay, look at him waving. Yay. Let me go down here. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Everyone's waving and squeaking and saying hey there. Yeah, so this is where it gets a bit serious because we're under eating or the indulging leads to a true mental illness and life threatening. A person, say for example, can maybe have a heart attack, or if they're overweight, puts stuff on their heart. But man, that is nothing compared with what bulimia or anorexia does to your body. Okay. So this is something to keep in mind. Gluttony is an addiction, and addictions are a serious problem. Third, there can be a deep folly involved in gluttony by thinking that one can satisfy inner emptiness with things of this world. And this is where we have the disposition, okay? That because food in itself, drink in itself, it is not bad. It is a good. We have to. So we look at why are people doing it and why this can be harmful. You can satisfy an inner emptiness with the things of this world to cover up feelings by overeating, but especially that is prevalent in drinking. Drink to forget. Drink because you're sad. Drink because you're mad. Very dangerous. Same thing with drugs. And while they do start off something I would call objectively sinful, the gluttonous aspects of that, but when it gets into the addiction, we're in a different territory. I can't say that enough. Disclaimer. Finally, gluttony is closely connected to avarice and lust. And when we're talking about gluttony, we're talking about the kind of gluttony to which you are responsible, where you are choosing to indulge in this unreasonable attachment to what you put into your body. Very closely connected to avarice, because you can never get enough and you do it to attain it, and lust. And that's the thing. Yeah, can't wait till we have lust. Lust is next week, everybody. Happy Easter. We're talking about lust. Not to be confused with desire. Desire is good, lust is bad. Unfortunately, sometimes people use lust and desire interchangeably. It is not. It is in the inordinate. Whenever you remove yourself from reason, that's where we're getting into the destructive aspects of a person's actions. It's destructive often to other people, but most importantly, these things are destructive to yourself. Here's one of the money lines. It was the paragraph, and I reproduced it here. The battle against gluttony is great in our times, due to the way in which foods are prepared. This is where the culpability is in question right now. I swear, you can go to places like Europe, and food is different. It's better. It's better for you, and it doesn't have some of the same addictive qualities that you'll find here in America, and they even say this here. The often hidden prevalence of sugar in so many things that you just wouldn't even imagine are full of sugar. That's not natural. And it's hidden. So, you're if you're eating a big old piece of cake, if you're eating some candy, you know that you're loading yourself up with sugar. But if you're having other items, that it's the preservatives that they're doing, this can alter your body chemistry and cause you to maybe be addicted, because you'll find that you start to crave it, and you're craving it because your chemistry is saying so. Look at our prevalence of type 2 diabetes. Some of it is genuinely overeating, but I swear some of it is the way food is right now. I will go into my place of working where what they are serving the clientele, it's junk. Junk. Junk loaded with sugar, fat, fried. It's bad. And then they go and have them sit all day. They're not allowed to go outside. They're not allowed to run around. They're not allowed to exercise. They're not allowed to have healthy social outlets. And then they wonder why these kids are getting fat. Chris Ann says, I've heard that from people. Food in America tastes more artificial and processed. Yes. I went to France with a friend of mine. My traveling companion had never been to Europe before. We went to a supermarket in Paris to pick up food to bring back to our hotel room. We had one of those little fridge things. And after she had just yogurt, she was like, what is this? This is so different but amazing. And it felt so good. You felt better after having these meals. You didn't feel like that bloated. And then finally she was like, it is not fair we don't have this in America. I'm getting very close to becoming one of those weirdo organic people, but hopefully without the weirdo part, because of this, because of exactly what you're saying. My goodness, yes. We also live in a very gluttonous lifestyle. Just forget food and all that. Gosh, the average day, especially if you're a kid, average kids days go to before care at 6. They get fed at the school, which, as I just said, full of sugar and all sorts of garbage. Then they get a snack at school, often prepared given by the school, and then they have lunch, which is crap. And then they're in aftercare eating crap. And then when their parents pick them up at 6, the parents are exhausted, the kids are exhausted, they haven't really had a productive day. And then they go and like, dang it, I'm going to shut the kid up. Let's go through the drive-through. Our lifestyle is not natural to our natural rhythms, and it's not natural literally. Chris Ant says, I've noticed it just with meat bought from the grocery store versus meat from a farmer's market. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Farmer's market, all those. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how different it is? And it's difficult because those are more expensive. And not everyone can afford to go to all these places. I did in some of my studies for the anthropology studies in history, people congregating in cities is arguably the biggest mistake that humanity has done since the dawn of time. The natural state of our being is out at farms, not congregating in cities. That's where we get crime, that's where we get disease, and that's where we get a processed lifestyle instead of growing your own food. I would love to grow my own food. You have some people like Tim Pool who moved out in the country and bought a bunch of chickens, and I say go for it if you can do it. All right. So we have the oft-hidden prevalence of sugar in so many things and the near elimination of famine in the Western world. Yeah. we're gluttonous because we can be. Because we can be. Even the poor have not just enough food, they have too much food. When you have some situations where the kids are not being fed, it is not because of the lack of food, it's the lack of care that the parents are giving their kids, and that's a whole other very sad story. We have food. Chrisanne says, do guinea pigs eat a lot? Yes, they do. Just like a lot of animals, but rats and gerbils, they eat like several times their body fat. If I ate like the piggies do, I'd weigh 300 pounds. Yes. Tons of food every day. They never stop eating. Correct. Very, very high metabolism. Because their jobs are to eat, run around, reproduce, and get eaten by snakes and other predators. So, yes, we have the near elimination of famine in the Western world. We also live longer, are seldom sick for lengthy periods, and are able to consume food with little or no preparation time. Yeah. Whether you're having it delivered by DoorDash, whether you go through the drive-through, or even just thawing it out from what you get in the frozen food section. I like to get some root vegetable blend from Walmart. Yeah, it takes a few seconds. I just have to thaw it out and cook them, and boom, it's done. It used to be that just making the midday or evening meal was the vast part of your day. It was literally hard work. You wanted to get water, you had to go to the well and lug it up. You had to boil it. You wanted milk, you had to milk the dang cow and then boil it. I mean, just all sorts of things. You had to grow the vegetables. You had to pick them, clean them, chop them. And then check this out. This is where we get into science. Our bodies seem designed for occasional want of food. Yeah, that's how we've survived. Want of food, lengthy illness, and far more physical exertion than is common today. Correct. The way that you retain body fat, naturally, we retain body fat. So we have to almost fight against that. All the way from the future, we have someone from the future who lives in a place where the food is amazing. I'm jealous of you, Luffy's God. Is it so wrong that I want more? No, it is not wrong that you want more, especially because of where you live. My gosh. I'm not going to completely dox you, but I'm very well aware and familiar with where you live. First of all, they eat so much daggone fish. Because, well, what do you have? You don't have anything to eat up there but that. Back in the day when y'all weren't plundering, you had to live by the sea. And fish is very, very healthy for you, and fresh fish. Okay, when they talk about eating so much, we're talking about guinea pigs here, folks. Guinea pigs can eat as much as they like. Crescent says, everything tastes so much better homemade from scratch, especially soup with homemade bread. Yeah. Yeah. But this goes to our social changes. People don't have time to do that. I'm going to say something controversial, and I'm saying this as a woman, but when women entered the workplace when we didn't have to, that's when things got F-U-C-K'd, E-C-K'd, E-D'd. It's impossible to do these things while you work full time. Unless you're really rich and you can hire nannies and housekeepers. I remember way back when, it might have even been Oprah, when she lost a whole bunch of weight. And everyone's like, well, how did you do it? And she's like, well, my cook started doing this, 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 and this. And everyone was kind of like, oh, really? It's like, yeah, if I had a cook cooking like that for me all the time, yeah. And your personal trainers, etc. Tommy says, I would love to go back in time and have a burger from the 50s. Oh, I'll bet you that'd be good. Yeah, everyone's saying hello to Luffy. Yeah, they got some good stuff there. Hey, guys. Yes. It's not natural to be on the run the way we are. Let me make this clear, though. I firmly believe that women should have the choice. For example, look at me. I did not marry. I do not have children. So what I supposed to do? Just sit around and do nothing? It's like, yeah, women need to be able to enter the workplace, but often they do when they do not need to. I always knew that not just marriage, but if I ever got pregnant, no way in HE double hockey sticks could I have been a teacher. I know people do it, and they're basket cases. You are dead by the end of the day. Every last drop of the will to live has been taken from you. And then the idea that finally when they let you go, because they have all these after school meetings, all this extra stuff, got to have meetings with parents, be on the phone, be on the email. You finally get your butt home at 6 o'clock. The last thing I could imagine would be to be there for children. Not judging anyone that does. I'm just saying it's not natural to do that. Women should have never left the home, says Chrysanth. I wish I had the energy to cook homemade every day. I just had to make do with Saturdays being meal prep days. Yeah. Well, I'm patting myself on the back because I got some things where I'm going to make my own dinner tonight. It's not going to be prepped, etc. Because there's also a satisfaction in that. But also part of these lifestyle changes, they're not natural to our rhythms. Frankly, this was something I was taught in Ireland, that you should eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a lord, and supper like a pauper. We do the opposite. Most people don't even have breakfast for starters. Barely eat breakfast, maybe a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, and then you eat the biggest meal of the day is in the evening when we need it the least. And what do? Then we all go to bed, and then all those calories aren't going anywhere. Crescent says it's not even physical work that wears us down every day. It's all the mental exhaustion now. Yeah. And part of the mental exhaustion is because we are not doing what is natural to us. And again, far more physical exertion than is common today. Because, and this is where I talk about Europe here. This was a phenomenon that happened with my brother-in-law. He went with his family to Italy and Sicily, to do all that stuff over there. The art, the churches. He had pasta like 3 times a day, just about, cannoli. Because, the Italian Sicilians are just throwing food at you all the time. And when he got to America, he found that he had lost 10 pounds. And he was like, what's wrong with this picture? After eating all that pasta, I should be fatter. But then he thought about it, and it's like, wait a second. There was a lot of walking. You weren't going you weren't in a car all day. Also, it did tend to be regular meals and quality meals. We don't have quality meals here in our part of our natural rhythm anymore. Same thing happens to me in Ireland, and I definitely felt it when I came back here to America from having lived most of my childhood and my early teens in Ireland. The sedentary lifestyle that was imposed on me. First of all, it mentally messed me up. And yeah, you started to blow up and you're like, what the hell? You don't really change your eating habits. And it's like, oh, wait, when I lived in Ireland, how did I get to school? I rode my bike or I walked. And when I wasn't walking, I rode my bike. Maybe if it was raining really hard, you'd take the bus for part of the way. But you walked, and you walked up and down hills. You rode your bike up and down hills. Families had one car, and that was usually used by dad who was at work. We had an hour for lunch where we could go anywhere on the school campus, including the hockey pitches and the soccer pitches. We were constantly active. And I couldn't believe when I came over here, not only did we get 30 minutes for lunch and that was it, but we couldn't go outside, or if we could go outside, there was no exercise. And then buses took us everywhere. So my American lifestyle had to become where I had to plan these things. And that's hard to do. Do you do it? Yeah. We do have to do it. But it's hard work. And it shouldn't have to be hard work. Chrisanne says, not even fit. Oh, wait, you already said that. Look, Stephen Ransom is here. Hello. It's the weed also. Yes. Thank you, Dan Blackroyd. Mm-hmm. Dan Blackwood said the pasta grown in Italy has much less complex carbs to break down in the body. Correct. It's the quality of the food. That's the thing. Our food here in America is crap. I mean, some of the food that we have here, our processed food, isn't even legal in many countries. And that's why I'm saying that these things can mitigate what the traditional definition of gluttony might have been in the past. And that's why this article is saying this. Are we really dealing with objectively people are eating too much, or is there a lifestyle crisis? And does that lead to some of these other issues? I never learned to ride a bike. Hey, that's all right. That's all right. Now we're going to get to what to do about it. Okay, we know what gluttony is. Gluttony is eating more than you need to survive, especially in an inordinate, unreasonable way. It also includes drinking. When I say drinking alcohol in excess, and it also includes drugs, the use of drugs to excess, or how they are not supposed to be used. That's the whole idea. Using food to what it's not supposed to be used, using things for that are in inordinate, unreasonable consumption. It can also be under eating. Some people are addicted to their bodies. You see that with those TikTok people in the gyms taking videos of themselves. Yeah, that's connected with vanity. Tommy says, whenever I get bored, I find some trouble to get. Well, that's another sin. Yeah. Again, you got to use your reason. Yeah, we don't want to live in trouble. We want to live in peace and harmony with love and flowers and dancing on roses. But sometimes it's boredom. Why do people eat too much? They might be bored, or they're trying to fill something, or drink too much. So if you find yourself being bored, do so in a productive way. Get into crafting, go out, socialize with your neighbors, exercise, get on your bike. I've ridden my bike more in the last 5 years or since COVID than in like 15 years, and it was one of the best things I ever did. I should also say that gluttony and addiction includes social media. And you see the negative effect it has on people. Like after people are involved with too much time on the internet, too much time with their YouTube channel, too much time arguing with people. And it's always like, okay, and how do you feel at the end of it? You feel like crap. You want to know why? Because it's not productive. It's gluttonous. It's another form of addiction. And it also feeds pride. I had a friend once who argued all night with somebody on the internet. This was way back in 2013 or before people realized what there were probably bots that they were dealing with. I was like, oh my gosh, don't let that person bait you. It's like, no, I'm going to show this person. And then the next morning, the person was still at it, arguing with this person. I said, did the person change their mind? He's like, no. It's like, yeah. And you just stayed up all night over what? Someone that wasn't even interested in hearing what you had to say and probably was just messing with you. Crescent says, my elderly neighbor likes sitting out on the porch. If I'm bored in the summer, I'll go sit with him and chit chat for a while. Yes. Old people do that. And there's something to be said about that. They'll sit on the porch, or in my neighborhood, they'll often open up their garage door and just sit out there. And yeah, we all visit. That for them was television. Be sociable. Be outside. Gosh, I love doing that. So relieve your boredom in a productive way. Talk to humans. Okay. Limit your online time. There are many good things about the internet. There's loads of people I would never have met otherwise. I wouldn't be here with you talking about gluttony. But limit it. And if you find yourself not being productive, that's the key. If you're not being productive, or if you're finding yourself being inordinately upset or having negative feelings, then it's not good for you. It's not good for you. Regular habits. We were talking about this. We need to get back to regular habits. When you wake up, what's the first thing you do? You have breakfast, you go to work or do something productive, and then at noon you eat. And then maybe have a snack in the afternoon. They used to have tea time. We need to bring back tea time. Tea time's 3:00. Have some tea. And maybe a scone. And then eat dinner. And then that's it. The sun goes down, you go to bed. Have a regular habit, regular rhythm. abstinence, sometimes abstinence we think of not having sex, or not, people say, abstinence is not having sex till marriage, whatever it is. No, abstinence just means that you're abstaining from something. A good example of that is abstaining from meat on Fridays. It used to always be the practice in the Latin rite of the church, and now it's in Lent that we do it, but we are actually supposed to abstain from something of our choice in every other Friday, unless it's Easter, because that's a whole different story. But yeah, we're abstaining. We're abstaining from meat on Fridays during Lent and on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. We also fast. Gasp. On Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. It does about it good, because then you tell yourself, can I give this up? Sometimes traditionally people will give up something at Lent, like candy. I'm going to give up candy. I'm going to give up alcohol. I'm going to give up dessert. I had a friend once that gave up salt, like that she wouldn't use salt or pepper at the dinner table. And I'm like, that's crazy, but that is, you'd be surprised at how much a person will use spices. It's like, wow, you go, girl. And as you are abstaining from these things periodically, this is why I love the liturgical year. It forces us to do this. You get something out of it. You learn something about yourself. This Lent, I gave up. And it's been really good. It's been really good psychologically for me. I'm like, just going to look to myself. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. But all this garbage on the internet, no, it's not going to do it. It's not good for me. It's not good for others. And it's not good for my soul. And all it does is make everyone unhappy. For what? So I gave up, and it's been very nice. I'm going to keep giving up. One thing that abstaining can help you with is discerning if you have a problem. Let's just say you decide you're drinking too much and you decide to give up alcohol for Lent, or even give up alcohol on Fridays, and you're finding yourself having trouble with that. Maybe that's a sign that you have a bigger problem. So that's where periodically abstaining from things can help you discern. And it also allows you not to reflect on if you're being controlled by external things. Grassant says, I know someone who gave up all forms of potato. Oh my gosh. That's a nightmare. No baked potato, fries, chips, vodka, even in cooking. He said it was really tough. I'll bet you, because we eat a lot more potatoes than we think. Like even this morning, I had some potatoes with my breakfast. Abstinence, yeah. Well, and sex, by the way, but this is maybe might be more of the lust. Some people give up sex during Lent. Married couples will do that, and it's kind of good for them. And then you really, how do I say this? You have a very happy Easter. Easter, by the way, goes on for 5 weeks. I'm sorry, 6 weeks. So you're doing it wrong if you just celebrate Easter Sunday. Quality of food. We already mentioned this, but look at the quality of your food. Maybe it's not that you're eating too much. Maybe oh my gosh. Okay, I'm yelling at my cat now. I'm a terrible person. He is knocking over things. The quality of your food. Maybe you just need to change the quality of your food. And even if you think you're eating good stuff, maybe you're not. Maybe it's processed. Maybe if you can, grow your own food or get some organic food. Look at the quality of what you're eating. If you're going to eat, make it count. And if you are eating too much junk food, we'll change that. That's something that can be changed. Drink water. Believe it or not, it can be just as simple as that. We need water. I am very guilty of not doing this as I should. I'll drink coffee, I'll drink soda, I'll drink just about anything except water. And when I do drink water, I feel so much better. It helps regulate your body, it helps with metabolism, it helps get out like all sorts of nasty stuff in your body, toxins. It's good for you. Drink water, just plain water. Ditch the diet mentality. This goes with the gluttonous attitude toward undereating. That that gluttony can be not eating enough. That the diet mentality is not really about a lifestyle. It's what do you call it? It's a form of binging and fasting or like hyper fasting in a way that's also not natural. No judgment here. I am not judging anybody because if the keto thing really helps you, that's great. But I would rather die 1,000 deaths than go around eating butter all the time. That's me personally. And again, I know why people do it, and I know it's done great things for people. But if you're getting into the mentality of, okay, I'm going to be doing something that's not maybe the best or not maybe not most natural thing, ask yourself why. Okay. Uh, I was under a lot of pressure, and I went on with the advice of my doctor, something called the DASH diet. It was a diet very specifically for high blood pressure, and it got my blood pressure under control. That and other things got my blood pressure under control, but food can, if you're already tendency toward high blood pressure, and you're eating like a lot of salt, there are certain foods that are just horrible for high blood pressure. So that's not the diet mentality that's changing your eating, especially, for me, it was to get the blood pressure down. When I say with some help, I was on some pills for a while, but I was able to get off the pills, and you found yourself feeling better. The foods that you eat on the DASH diet, look it up. It doesn't matter if you have high blood pressure or not. It's just a good way to eat. Okay, but the diet mentality is what's wrong. Chrisanne says, I heard a phrase at church, dieting is for the secular, fasting is for the faithful. Good point. Yeah. Why do you think there's multi-million-dollar businesses on dieting? Why do you think we've never had more diets in the history of humanity, but we're only fatter? Yeah. But again, I'm not saying don't go on diets, all right? But it's how you diet. And it's best to do things along with that's natural and natural to your rhythm, because what is also dangerous is you can lose weight. Well, see, that's the other thing. When you're just focused on pounds, I got to lose this many pounds. Are you focusing on a healthy lifestyle, or are you focusing on a number? Okay, because what will happen is that's why the vast majority of people, when they lose the pounds, they gain it back because they're like, okay, I've lost the weight, now I'm going to just go back to all my bad habits. They didn't really get rid of the bad habit. They just replaced one bad habit with another. So that's why it needs to be that kind of positive. So ditch that mentality. And again, it's the mentality. Don't ditch diets, ditch the mentality. It's pretty clear which ones are good, which ones are not, what works. And I'll tell you what works. Never fails. Get off your ass. That's the best diet you can do. And the rest really does fall in place. Start exercising. Because that's natural. And if you don't live in a place where you can naturally exercise, what we already talked about, where you can walk places, ride your bike places, then you have to work it into your routine. But you do that, that'll solve the problem. When they say diet and exercise, I almost say exercise, and then diet falls in place, because your body needs exercise. It needs to move. Tommy says, just don't eat till you burst. Always left the ones who are just going ugh after eating. Well, yeah, I mean, that goes with that goes without saying, but obviously there's an issue going on if you find yourself having trouble doing that. And that's the difference between being gluttonous and just enjoying a meal. Yeah. I love there was a comedian that said he was making fun of one of the diets. I think it might have even been Nutrisystem, where they said you can eat whatever you can even potato chips. Just be sure to eat only 2 or 3 potato chips. And I was like, if I could do that, I wouldn't need be on Nutrisystem. It's like you don't say. Point taken. I do take these points, but there's obviously more than that going on. There was another comedian who I can't stand. I forget his name, but he did make a good point. It's like, oh, I never thought of that. There is lifestyle issues and there are mental issues as well. And Tommy says, wait, get off your ass. Does everyone have AOC in their house? Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, that would be one way to get off your ass. But yeah, get off. Yeah. And this is where I talked a little bit about the social media aspect of it. And I know I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I've been sitting here for 50 minutes talking to y'all, but I'm only doing it for 50 minutes. If you're spending 6, 7 hours a day on various live streams and stuff sitting in front of a computer and you're not trying to balance that with some sort of exercise, I mean, if you're, it's science. It's real science. You sit on your butt, you're not gonna do anything but gain a bunch of weight no matter what you eat. Get out and exercise. And also you'll find mentally you'll feel a lot better. Tommy, I know. I only feel like that if I eat something that's heavier than I'm expecting and I almost immediately go for a walk afterwards. Yeah. And and there's no judgment here. There's no judgment here. We all are gluttonous about something because remember, gluttonous can be a mentality. I just talked about you can get addicted to the internet. You can be oh gosh, how many times have I seen people addicted to owning? I'm gonna have the last word on this person. And it's almost like it's an addiction. It's like this person you've never met before. That's probably a bot. I'm talking about my friend in England here that I had that particular argument with, and he admitted I was right. Tommy says it happens to everyone at some point, but the ones who do it constantly are the ridiculous types. Yeah. Well, but I always would say, why are they doing it constantly? That's what needs to be the root of things. Is it true gluttony? Where again, I think things like where it was really more objectively viewed as a sin was for a different time. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. I think it's more in the head, and we've seen that because eating disorders are through the roof. Overeating, bulimia, and anorexia are at epidemic levels, and they're all two sides of the same coin. What's dangerous about bulimia and anorexia is people don't recognize it often until it's almost too late because they look normal. Maybe it's like, oh, they've lost a little too much weight. But that's okay and stuff. It's almost a silent killer. Luffy's God said, now I'm picturing the fat man from The Meaning of Life exploding. Oh, yeah. Crescent says, very true. I never understood the feeling of being overly full is not really a pleasant one. No, it's not. It's very similar, though not quite as bad as the feeling of a hangover. There's a reason why you have the hangover when you drink too much. There's a reason why you feel like crap after that kind of indulging in food. Your body is telling you this is not good for you. Again, though, we got to look at what we're putting into our body, though, that is addictive. There are a lot of addictive things that have been put into our food, especially here in America, that's not before. I am not in any way saying that people aren't responsible for what they put in their mouth, but be aware of that. That just because you have a certain kind of food, look at the ingredients. I remember for the longest time, fat-free. Remember that was a thing, fat-free. So people would think, oh, that's good for me. Then it turns out it had like 10, 100 million, 1,000 gallons of sugar. And when they huff and puff out of breath after eating, should be a sign. Well, yeah, it should be a sign. But you see, and that's where it's like, okay, where you're getting beyond gluttony and you're getting beyond reason. Hey, and that's where it gets self-destructive. It's an addiction. And I'm going to get there to a certain degree as well. You have to get at the roots of why you're overeating. Because if shame would take care of it, we wouldn't be in this crisis we're having right now. I don't know if you've ever known a bulimic or something. I mean, I think we all have. There's nothing you can say to them to convince them. And I think that's what my point is coming up here. Yeah, here we go. And this is where we're leading here. And this is our crisis. Get help if it's serious. And in many cases, it is. It is. I said, if you're drinking too much alcohol and you find you can't stop, if you're overeating, even though your reason is telling you, you feel like crap, you're overweight because, you can look in the mirror, right? Or, and it's something else is going on in your head. If that's why abstinence is good to help you discern. You do you do need to do something about it. And this is why I'm pushing back just a little bit on the chat here, that when it gets into your head and when it becomes an addiction, reason is gone. Reason is gone. And that's where you got to get your butt to things like AA. Go to Alcoholics Anonymous. The only requirement for membership in Alcoholics Anonymous is a desire to stop drinking. TV has given us a lot of myths about Alcoholics Anonymous, that, you have to be one of those raging alcoholics and all that. No, you just have to want to stop drinking. And one of the tenets in there is about restoring to sanity. And an expression that you might hear is, I don't have a drinking problem, I have a thinking problem. There's something going on in people's heads. Physically, there is a physical aspect to alcoholism, but there's more importantly a mentally one. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous works so well. And OA is actually the other side of the same coin. There is Overeaters Anonymous, just like Alcoholics Anonymous, just like Narcotics Anonymous. If you're a drug addicts, it's the same thing. Yeah, get your butt to AA. Get your butt to OA. If you're finding that you're out of control. They even have Gaming Anonymous. I forget what all the 12 steps are right now. The 12-step groups, they have it for cigarettes. They have it for smoking. Oh, gambling. Gambling. Lady T is here. Greetings, one and all at work. So dropping a like will catch the replay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, there is an elf in the house. Yeah. Because reason is reason. And just like any other thing that can be done through discernment, if you can stop on your own, if you got the sign, then you're good. If you can't, get help. And there's no shame. No shame. Though try not to confuse AA with OA, because oh my gosh, AA, one of the things they do is they have candy, they have brownies and all that, and that's because when people do stop drinking, they you crave sugar in a way that maybe you haven't before, and so sometimes they'll encourage people to So you'll go to the AA meeting, and there's all this cake and candy. So make sure you go to OA if you're not wanting to eat. AA is for alcohol. It's like you go to OA and you accidentally go into an AA room and you're like, this is not my, it's like, this is the craziest overeating place I've ever been. And coffee, that's the coffee at Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or rehab. I mean, you might have to go to rehab, especially drugs. Very rare that someone who is really a drug addict, because it's so physical, and in a way it can also be dangerous to stop drugs. You need to have like a doctor help you. Same thing with alcohol. If you're an alcoholic, depending on how far down your rock bottom is, you might also you just have to go to rehab because you have to do it safely. Like they will taper it off. You can have a heart attack and stuff if you try to go cold turkey. So be careful about that. Go to rehab. So there are places to go, and there's group therapy. Go do it. And therapy, normal therapy. Yeah, get a therapist. If it's in your head, if you're having trouble stopping, if your gluttony is beyond reason, don't be ashamed. And it's confidential. Don't listen to Prince friggin' Harry, who broadcasts everything for everyone. No, that's not the way therapy is supposed to be. And most importantly, get under a doctor's care, especially if you have bulimia and anorexia, because that is life-threatening. That's life-threatening. That'll kill you. Chris Sant says, I think Terry Pratchett had a good metaphor for addiction in his Discworld books. If a vampire wanted to stop drinking blood, it had to replace that want with something else, coffee or a hobby. Yep. Yeah, you have to replace it. You have to get to the root of why you're doing it and then what to do about it. That's why I call this what to do about it. I need to start calling these Catholic explaining sins and what to do about it, because I've been doing that. It's why I love confession so much. There's a reason why the Lord gave us that sacrament, and that it had to be to another human, and that he used gave the grace to the ordinance. And then later, of course, they developed the seal of confession because there were some practical issues. It's one thing to say you're sorry for your sin. It's another thing to know, well, what do I do about it? I love going to confession and just hearing the priest will usually give you some really, really good advice about what to do about it. And sometimes be there to say, I think you're being a little too hard on yourself. Lighten up, you need that. You need that help. You need that grace. The 12 steps are based on the writings of the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola. There's a reason why it works. And yes, replace it with something else. And AA will do that for you too. They don't just say, don't drink. Well, how do you not drink? What do you do instead of drinking? Because you want to drink. Duh, that's why you're there. The big book, it's got some good stuff. What I love about the big book is they decided that they are not going to update the big book, because some of the language in it is a little archaic. It was written in 1938, but they needed to keep the integrity of it. But yes, you need to replace it with something else. And that's why shame works only in a limited way. Sometimes people say, oh, just shame these people. It's like, well, if shame worked, we wouldn't have this problem. There's something else going on in people's head. And all you have to do is look around and see that there is something wrong with society. Okay, we know what happened this last week. beyond evil. Something's wrong with the way people are thinking. When we say we've got a mental health crisis, that's beyond. Oof, that is a complete understatement. So this is why gluttony and some of the other sins, gluttony, sloth, and lust are in a little bit of a different category than pride or avarice and envy, though all of it is in the same coin. Christian says there are multiple somethings wrong with society. Mhm. Yeah. And it really goes to how we think. We are not thinking reasonably. Oh, look, it's Beauty and the Beast. The majority of problems that you have is when reason breaks down. G.K. Chesterton said that the problem with common sense is that it's become so uncommon. My gosh, good stuff. You know what? Maybe I'll go there. I'll go there a little bit. You can incorporate these how you want to or interpret them, because I think that these work for a lot of people, regardless of what issue you have. But seems like gluttony is really, really something appropriate to this. Well, can I find him? Here we go. Yeah, the 12 steps. Step number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Now let's take the alcohol and put something else in there. Unless it is alcohol, then yes, get your ass to AA. AA is great. Our lives had become unmanageable. Came to believe, step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Again, there's something wrong with our heads. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. These are always read at the beginning of meetings. Obviously, this is my bias because I'm calling this show Catholic Explaining, and I have said I'm a Catholic. So, yeah, hand it over to God. But when they say as we understand him, there is no pressure to have a denominational God or even a definition for God. Some people have a real problem with that. You just have to recognize there's a power outside of yourself. And it works. For me, that's not an issue because I believe in God. Okay, that's great. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Some people in AA, it works. You can use your confessor for that. We got to admit to everyone, to your innermost self, the nature of your wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. In my case, I asked him for the grace. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is where it's tricky, because not only are you making a list of all persons you had harmed, it doesn't say all persons we had harmed and the SOB had it coming and I'm not sorry I harmed them. No, if you harmed someone, you harmed them, period. Harm is harm. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends. And you got to make it right. You got to make it right. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Yeah. Direct amends. Make it right. And again, where they're talking about when to do so would injure them or others, there are certain circumstances for obvious reasons where that would be the case. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I don't want to hear your excuse. And I'm also talking about myself there. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Again, acknowledging there's something beyond yourself. In my case, ask God for the grace. I also ask help from the communion of saints, both living and dead. I ask my friends to pray for me. I ask for those that have gone beyond to pray for me. I know it's really boring to say that a Catholic has a special feeling for Mother Mary, but I do. I mean, she's the Ark of the Covenant. Hello, she's my gal. Also, St. Joseph. Really like the Little Flower, obviously. That's what Little Flower, St. Therese of Lisieux, St. Teresa of Avila. Good guys, good gals. And then number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Yeah, this 12 step maybe isn't relative to this, because one of the things about an addiction, whether you're dealing with alcohol, again, you can put whatever you're addicted to in there. It's life and death. Alcoholism, bulimia, those kind of situations. And so by reaching out and helping people who do that, and it doesn't mean that you become a busybody. It could be that just going to other AA meetings or OA meetings or NA meetings, or going to prisons, hospitals. But people don't tend to listen to non-addicts. And that's why the 12 steps work. You talk to any alcoholic who has gotten sober, almost never happens because someone who wasn't an alcoholic nagged them or shamed them or said they were horrible people because of what they did. It's another alcoholic that's been able to reach them and say, I know what it is you're going through. I know, I've been there. Let's do this together. Same thing with all other addictions. Because there's that mental block. I decided to throw this out here. Again, these things are specifically to certain addiction programs, gambling addiction, OA, Overeaters Anonymous, but worth thinking about, worth looking at. It really gets to the root of why you're doing what you're doing and what to do about it. Because yes, there are multiple things wrong with society, and there's things wrong with us. And it starts with us. It starts with us. What are we doing about it? To misuse Jordan Peterson, what he says about make your bed. Yeah, if you can't make your own bed, how can you change someone else? Pride can come into that as well. With a lot of these gluttonous situations, these are personal sins. They don't tend to affect others, except, well, for example, alcoholism will. Gambling will. Because that's where you can hurt other people. Drugs. But for the most part, you're hurting yourself. Well, so there it is. I don't know what else really to say. I've come to the end of my notes. Now I'm thinking profound thoughts. Well, as we're coming into Holy Week, Lent is technically at an end. What are we going to do about it, kids? I think I'm going to start a new resolution right now because I think what I am still guilty of not doing is a routine. Sometimes that's hard to do, but I need to get into a routine. I skip breakfast all the time. I stay up too late. Maybe what would happen if for fun we all decided to get up with the sun and go to sleep with the sun, unless you live in Norway, because all you would do is sleep all day in the winter and stay up all night in the summer. But for the most part, try to get back into your natural rhythms. Try to eat natural food. Try to live a balanced life. Try to not be a jerk. Exhibit A right here. See how things might change. Maybe they really will. Maybe they will. Chrysanth, I usually treat Lent as getting into good habits. Giving up swearing for Lent. Try to carry that through. Yeah. Yeah. Swearing's the one thing I'm really trying. But I've gotten rid of so many other bad habits. Except taking the Lord's name in vain is non-negotiable, though. Not breaking that second commandment. But yeah, Lent's a great time. And that's why the liturgical year is good for you. A time for war, a time for peace, a time for feasting, a time for fasting. Time for getting your butt in gear. Get that spring cleaning done. Told you I've been a lot happier since I gave up when it comes to crap online. Gosh, I've been happier. Christine says, I can try to eat natural food, but I'm a second shifter, so sleep would be a problem. Yeah. We see, and that's what we're saying is like sometimes those things are difficult. And they need to be. There are people that need to be in these different shifts. I don't know what you do, and you don't have to say, but hey, you want to have your doctor there or other things that need to be done. Yeah. But food is something that you can do. Yeah. I'm really going to try to start eating more organic. It was Jack Posobiec's wife who had tweeted something about just how when she married him and moved over to America and stuff, she was like, what is wrong with this food? Chrysanth, I gave up snacking this year so I can stop eating when bored. Oh, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Or even take up a hobby. Replace it with something else. Be kind to people. A lot of these 7 deadly sins has to do with just being nice, being nice to others, being kind. Doing the opposite of the bad thing you're wanting to do. I've joked at every single one of these that I sometimes give myself away that you should be worried if I'm extra nice to you. Because I was probably tempted to not be nice. And I'm like, now I've got to be nice to this person. That's not always the case. Sometimes I'm just nice to people in general, or if there's someone you don't want to pray for, and then you're like, now I've got to pray for this person. I know a lot of people think we're wimps because of it. But the alternative is that I would become a bad person. I don't want to do that. I don't want to become like the people that I see around. And I don't want to become the person that I've been in the past. Again. Yeah, keep going. Run with perseverance. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us run the race set before us, keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, the leader and perfecter of our faith. And I can't tell you what Bible verse that's from, because we Catholics, we memorize scripture, we just don't know where it's from. Well, I have something to do tomorrow now. Broke another battle bot during testing. Oh my gosh, I don't have the opportunity to get more. Well, there you go. You see, so if you're tempted to get gluttonous, get a battle bot. Well, and I've got to go too. I actually need to check in with my mama. So, as always, thank you, everyone that's been in here. Yeah, we've had Tommy Chrysanth, Lady T. Gosh, this Luffy is God, who I'm jealous of because he is surrounded by the great food. Dan Blackroyd, Stephen Ransom. We had Demogeny. Who else was in here? I think I said Stephen Ransom. If I missed anyone, I do apologize. We had like one other I think I missed. But thank you for being here. Of course, gosh, Luffy, I'm so jealous of your fish. Gorilla's random thoughts. Yes. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain. Oh, I thank you. Be certain to not be gluttonous.